Man, what's up, man?
Yo, Dreamchasingboxing. I got my brother Coach Sean Harrison on the phone, man. And Coach, I'm actually gonna go around the YTBC. Correction, the LDBC. And I'm almost fucked up there. Yeah, but I want to
Do
go
it, do
around
it.
the LDBC, the new movement. Minus racism, minus the bullshit. And I actually want to sit down and ask everyone. I want to ask all the members something that's very serious, something that's been on my mind a lot, and that is, it's not that I just think PBC should take over. I literally think it should be even a step further. I'm at the point now where, look, man. At first, I think it should be something that's baby steps. Of course, I think it should be done with baby steps. It should be people should ease into it. But ultimately, I want PBC to be the last thing left standing because I personally believe the handwriting is already on the wall for a lot of these other promotional companies, a lot of these other which we call networks, where their platforms aren't going to work anymore. For example, HBO's pay per view model or the pay per view model in total, it's just not going to work anymore. I believe it's done. I don't think it's a debate anymore. I don't think it's really up for anything. Pay per view as a whole, I think is over. There's literally only a handful of fighters that can even do decent on pay per view at this point. So you can't deem that to be a model that's successful or actual platform. If only one or two people can survive on it, then it's not a platform. That's just something only a couple people can survive on. So I think pay per view is pretty much done. Now, as far as HBO and Showtime and just having fights only on there, that is going in the opposite direction, especially in regards to HBO. HBO, they're cutting their budget. They're forcing these fights to be on pay per view, which we've already discussed isn't working. Triple G, one of our biggest stars, only did about 100,000. Terrence Crawford, one of our biggest, up and rising star, only did 50,000. So there's no model for the pay per view. There's no platform for the pay per view market again. Now, as far as just regular HBO, I mean, we've seen good reviews, we've seen bad, but all in all, HBO, I mean, the numbers aren't that good. Let's go to Showtime, for example. Showtime, the Leo Santa Cruz versus what's his name, Carl Frampton, only did about 500,000 views. The last fight, what was that, like one of the best fights, supposed to be action packed. It was Lucas Matisse versus what Ruben Provodnikov. That did 600,000. So a lot of these fights aren't getting high numbers. Only a select few dudes. Again, only a select few are really doing good numbers, as in Triple G, Andre Ward, Deontay Wilder does $1 million on Showtime. It's only a select few. Overall, most of these guys aren't cracking 1 million views. So I'd say this. I said all that to say this, man. PBC gives a proper platform for all fighters in the United States and should be the only platform we really see fights anymore. Basically, because I don't think boxing is in any position to demand people to pay for it. Coach, let me get your thoughts based on all I said, man. I know I went on for a minute there.
No, that's okay, man. I'm listening, man. I like to listen. I think the pay-per-view model, man, it's dead. Okay, the pay-per-view model right now is dead. But, you see, here was my other argument that I had earlier, man. Okay, so I'm looking at the UFC and Dana White, okay? The last pay-per-view they did, UFC 201, okay? They did 1.1 million pay-per-view buys, okay? But, you see, here's the system. See, what they do, they put a lot of fights on free TV, okay? Just like the PBC, and, they get good ratings off of those free fights. And then what they do is they host a pay-per-view. Okay, well now, all the crowd and the fans, they pretty much been getting, pampered with these free fights on TV. And then, on the free TV bout, they'll mention, oh yeah, and don't forget two of the biggest stars in MMA, Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz will be on live on, a pay-per-view. Okay, so see, it's working. I see Al Heyman doing the same thing, but, I still think that the PBC model is going to be a big part. I think it's going to be a big part, man, because I think boxing, man, the free fights got to stay. They got to stay so people can get, they can fall back in love with the sport of boxing, man. Mm-hmm. Because, I'm sitting here thinking, how the hell does a cue ball head bastard like Dana White get, 1.1 million pay-per-view buys? I mean, who is he, the bald-headed Floyd Mayweather? I just don't get it. But then, I start thinking about it. Yeah, man, UFC is on every day. Okay? Al Heyman doing the same thing. PBC is on damn near almost every day, Jeff. Okay? Or you can catch quite a few PBC fights. And the matchups are not all one-sided. the matchups are very interesting. Henceforth, let's look at the parallel between UFC. You look at a lot of UFC fights, there are a lot of matchups that are pretty much right down the middle. Those matchups are very challenging. And you compare some of the PBC matchups, those matchups are challenging. They're challenging and they're matched up properly. Now you look at the model we got now, this pay-per-view model, okay? Everybody named Mama knew Terrence Crawford was going to beat the hell out of Victor Postol. I mean, Jeff, that's just the way that is, okay? Everybody knew, okay? So what kind of intriguing matchup was that? I mean, let's really think about it. Everybody named Mama knew Manny Pacquiao was going to beat the dog shit out of Chris Algieri. Everybody knew it. So you kind of look at the pay-per-view numbers with a big megastar like Manny Pacquiao. Now, let's look at Miguel Cotto, okay? Miguel Cotto versus Canelo. Okay, intriguing matchup. Pretty intriguing matchup. A lot of people actually had Cotto winning that fight. So do you see the parallel now when we, the fans, think the matchups are going to be challenging? The pay-per-view numbers are actually, higher. I mean, that's just my opinion. That's what I've been seeing. But,
All right, man. Well, I'm going to break down what you said in the beginning into 3 parts about what the UFC is doing. Now, what I want to start by saying, yes, UFC did over $1 million. I didn't even know that, but they did over $1 million for their last pay-per-view. Here's what I have to say about that. UFC did not start off that way. See, a lot of people are expecting immediate results from PBC now. UFC did not start off doing that many views or doing that many numbers on pay-per-view. For those that don't remember, boxing has been doing, in terms of pay-per-view, when boxing has that pay-per-view, is way better than the UFC. But as you can see, that time is changing because the UFC has been consistent and they've been doing it for a very long time and they've kept grinding. It wasn't an overnight thing. UFC didn't just pop up and be successful. You know what I'm saying? So when people sit down and expect PBC to just be the shit right away, that's not realistic. However, the reason I sit down and say all these guys should get on board, and when I say these promoters, these motherfuckers need to get out the way, I don't mean get rid of them to the point where there aren't any other promoters. I'm saying get rid of that prideful shit where you're saying, I don't want to work with Al Heyman. Promoters like that shouldn't be in the game because we need PBC. We, as the fans, need PBC. And I'm going to get into back to the UFC. Now, Dana White himself, the guy who pretty much orchestrated the UFC and got it to where it's at now, said that about Al Heyman, finally someone's willing to invest money into boxing. What that means is, much like the UFC, you have to invest money into this. You have to be willing to lose money. And Al Heyman is the only guy, whether people want to admit it or not, that was willing to invest money into boxing. So what this means is that already, when we're talking about a guy like Dana White praises Al Heyman, we know we're heading in the right direction. Now, to continue that and even add on to it, not only is PBC not going to be successful overnight because it takes time, not only is a guy like Dana White supporting it, we have to understand that we need our guys to be on PBC. And I'm talking about guys like Gennady Golovkin. I'm talking about guys like Canelo Alvarez because that will help the sport grow. Like you said, man, the only reason that these pay-per-views on UFC are able to be a success is that you see them all the time. Whenever they have a free event, they sit down and say, hey, go watch the pay-per-view, da-da-da-da. What I'm trying to say is we could do something like that, but I'm saying fuck the pay-per-view model completely. That's something, I think bringing boxing back to pay-per-view is something Al Heyman is probably thinking of maybe 5 to 10 years down the road. Right now, he just wants PBC to be a successful brand where you can just watch it on free TV and they can get advertisers and they can sit down and be able to pay their fighters. I think that's a short-term goal right now. And why that's very important is because we need guys like Gennady Golovkin because whether you hate Al Heyman, whether you love Al Heyman, or where you sit, if you're a real boxer fan, you have to realize how much a Triple G on PBC would be huge for the sport. And I'm talking about the sport right now as a whole, man. I'm talking about everybody, everything that the sport needs. Right now, Triple G being on PBC is one of the best things that can happen for the sport. Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev should not be a pay-per-view matchup. At most, 300,000 people watch it. Why would you have it on that when you can have it on PBC and have upwards of 4 to 5 million people watch it? Same thing with Triple G, and I understand. This is why I brought up in the beginning baby steps. Okay, maybe ABO's not willing to give up Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev to PBC. Fine, I get that. I can understand that. Why not have a Triple G fight one of his bums or whoever the fuck he likes fighting? Why not have him fight one of those dudes on PBC? What's the big deal about letting, I don't know, Triple G face a Dominic Wade person, example, right? Why not have that on PBC? Who loses if you sit down and have a guy like Gennady Golovkin one of the biggest stars in boxing, who needs more fans. And not just him, he needs it. Boxing as a whole needs more fans, right? To sit down and survive, because like I said, man, HBO and Showtime numbers are going down. They're not going up. The only people whose numbers been rising periodically and sometimes went down as well is PBC. So if you're sitting down and look at that, why would you have Triple G on a platform where the most he'll get is 1.5 million people watching? If Triple G went on PBC right now, you can have upwards of 5 million people watching, and you can have so many more new fans to the sport, so many more young children into the sport. Why are we sitting down limiting a guy like Gennady Golovkin to HBO? If HBO sat down and landed off Triple G to PBC, I'm gonna break it down. PBC wins because they get a high ass rating because they got Gennady Golovkin on there. They do upwards of 5 million, maybe even more views if they have Gennady Golovkin on there. Golovkin wins because he gets 5 million people that wasn't watching him before get to watch him fight. HBO wins because now when Triple G comes back to HBO for for whatever fight, it'll be even bigger because 5+ million people watch them on free TV. So when you sit down and look at this, man, everybody wins by getting involved in PBC. And as far as the financial situation, they can work it out, man. They can work it out. The whole goal is to have advertisers be able to come and pay these guys. So even, let's say, worst case scenario, Triple G had to take a pay cut, right? What's wrong with that for him taking a pay cut for one fight, fighting not a tough fight? I'm not going to tell him to take a pay cut to fight like a tough opponent, but take a pay cut, fight somebody, who maybe not on that level, and have millions and millions and millions and millions of people watch him. Why are people against this? The only people who are honestly against this are people who either have a severe hate for Triple G and don't want him to get more fans, or the people who just don't want to see PBC be successful. But if you look at it, PBC is the only platform that could bring boxing back. Or not even, let me stop saying bring boxing back, to keep boxing from dying. I'll go as far as to say that. Go ahead, man.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, man, and I'm going to go ahead and piggyback, and I'm going to start on what you just said. The people that don't want boxing to work, let's call it that, okay? See, Jeff, from all the channels, and I agree with Tim Players News on this, man. I agree with them because they said this. They said that it's not a host of African-American channels, man. It's not a host of black channels, man, that are run by that are run by black people. It's not us, man, because we generally like how Triple G fight. Our only complaint is, who the hell has he fought? And see, so let's dig into this a little bit, okay? We support PBC. And you notice, man, it's a lot of, and I hate to say it, it's a lot of non-black channels, non-black entities, mainly Caucasians, that will not support PBC. I don't care, PBC, you would think after they put on that great fight, Jeff, with Showtime Sean Porter and Keith Thurman, man, that's fight of the year candidate. But what did people have to say? What did these individuals have to say? And I'm going to be respectful and call them gentlemen, okay? What did these gentlemen have to say? Basically, Heyman is still bad for boxing. Heyman, is losing money. PBC is going to fail. It's the same narrative.
Hey, Coach,
so let's fast forward.
Hold on, Coach, man.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut you off about these people, but these people aren't real fans, man. If you have people sitting out saying and complaining about a Keith Thurman, because here's what I have to say about these people, man. If anybody, right, when they had a criticism because PBC wasn't giving good fights, if they're still complaining now that PBC is giving great fights, look, man, they're not boxing fans. They could give two shit about the sport. They're so caught up with hating black individuals that they don't want to give any credit. So honestly, I don't even want to waste my time talking about these dudes. I want to talk about the people who, let's say, had genuine concerns about PBC. These guys, I mean, it doesn't matter what PBC does, man. PBC could give them $1 million and they'll still find something bad to say about them. So these people, man, look, not on my channel. I don't give two shits about them or their opinion.
Yeah, and the opinion is not much of an opinion, but see, that's kind of where, and if you kind of look at the overall spectrum, man, you kind of have to kind of gauge in that, not them, but maybe some of their influence over the casual fans.
Oh yeah,
and we're talking about some
yeah, that's what you're saying. Go ahead.
About maybe some of the mega channels, the bigger channels that hate Al Heyman. If you're a casual fan in boxing, you really don't know enough. All you just want to see is somebody get knocked out. That's just how it is, okay? But I think, man, if we bridge that gap where the casual fan can actually see, oh, okay, wait a minute, this is what's good for boxing. This is what everybody wants. And right now, PBC is what's good for boxing. Now, you remember even Floyd Mayweather had even said that him and Al Heyman, they actually thought about doing like a card, with the UFC, actually doing a card. Like, I was like, man, could you imagine how good for boxing that would be? The UFC, PBC on the same card. Man, it'll do wonders for boxing. And the casual fan, they don't know no better, so they'd be like, oh, crap. So this is what a car is supposed to be. You know, I think the PBC is the best thing for boxing. It's the best thing that happened for fans and especially the fighters, man. Because these fighters, man, they're getting taken care of. Their paydays are good. And, you know, we got to thank Al Heyman and the people that backed Al Heyman that said, hey, you know what, Al, this is a good idea. And the advertisers don't lie, man. Al Heyman already got the advertiser, man. He's already got the advertisers locked in. You see some of the commercials that you see on the PBC when you see these fights, a lot of commercials, man. And, you know, they can say, well,
he doesn't have enough locked in yet. He doesn't have enough advertisers. I know he has Corona. I know he has a couple, but he doesn't have enough of a staple yet to sit down and secure it, you know. But my thing is, we as a people, we as boxing fans, need him to get that, because what I'm trying to sit down and get people to understand is that these other platforms are diminishing. If we take away Al Heyman, right, all these people that love to talk bad about him, and Carol, I want you to understand this. We wouldn't have anything to talk about if we took Al Heyman away from this year. Let's just say PBC was gone. We would have, and let's just say HBO was the only thing that remained. We would only have a handful of fights to talk about all year, because HBO can't afford all of them. Or either that, or let's say HBO had all these guys. That means we would have had, 20 fights on pay-per-view? Come on, man. People have to sit down and think about this. You take away Al Heyman, you take away our ability to really sit down and talk about the sport at this point. He's the only one really putting fights on.
I really deep down think the detractors do understand that, too. I think they do. Because, you know, half of these guys, these big channels, man, they make these videos, but, you know, how are they getting paid? Oh, wait a second. It's because of the frequency of Al Heyman fights that are put on. So you take away Al Heyman, guess what? You take away some of their revenue. And see, you know, even a smart person, Jeff, could see that this is a good thing. I'm talking about on down to the fighters. I mean, hell, Jeff, even Al Heyman, you know, he offered parts of insurance to some of these guys. Jeff, that's unheard of, man. A boxer that's got health insurance. I mean, look, man, Al Heyman changing how the game is played. He's changing that, and the fighters, they're rolling with Al Heyman. You don't hear a lot of people saying, hey, I want to get away from Al Heyman. I got to. But you hear a lot of people saying, hey, I got to get away from Bob Arum. Hey, you know, I need to get out of Matchroom. Hey, you know, Cat the Duva just doing too much dumb shit. I mean, but Al Heyman, these guys are turning down multi-million-dollar contracts, man, to stay with Al Heyman. And I think the fighters, they understand that part about the business to know that, wait a minute, Al Heyman, when he says something going to happen, and I don't know what he promising them, man. He probably promising these guys, look, if you stick with me, you stay with this PBC model, I can promise you. Yeah, you keep winning, you're going to be rich beyond your imagination. I'm pretty sure he's telling them something to that, and these guys are like, oh, okay, because I see what you did for Floyd Mayweather. I see how you helped him. So, I mean...
I think it's simpler than that, though, Coach. I think we just got to look into the fact that he's able to let these guys fight. I mean, there's guys with certain promotional companies, and they can't even get fights, man. I mean, Rigo's out here fighting in Europe. He can't even get a fight in the U.S., man. He can't even get a fight on HBO. You know, Andre Ward damn near had a fucking, had a fight with HBO just to get this fight with Alexander Brand, and they didn't even give him enough money to actually get a decent opponent. So these guys, like, it's not the same. These fighters looking at, okay, yeah, sure, this guy could give me this type of contract if I go, but who am I going to fight, though? At the end of the day, who are you going to fight? Where are these big, quote-unquote, big money fights going to be for you? Because these contracts these other guys are turning down are basically, you have to fight somebody to get the money. But if there's nobody there for you to fight, how the fuck do you get paid?
Yeah, that's true. And so basically you got fighters sitting on the shelf not doing anything.
Exactly.
You know? But, yeah, how the hell do you get paid? Well, it seems like Al Heyman, they got the solution, man. It seems like PBC has the solution. Yeah, he figured out how to pay the fighters. He figured out how to not go completely broke. Like, he's figured it out. Now, I know some people will say, well, yeah, Al Heyman is going broke. Well, yeah, you could have fooled me, man, because he's still putting on fights. People still are getting their paydays, and the fights are very entertaining. These are not one-sided fights. The product that you get when you watch PBC, you tuned in for the whole time. I know I am when I'm watching. I feel like I'm watching a UFC bout when I'm watching PBC because the fights, they're on the same level. And that's just how it is, man. These fights are on the same level, okay, all of the fights. Yeah. And even some of the fights that Al Heyman is trying to make, okay, he tried. I mean, he had Deontay Wilder lined up to fight Povetkin. Had that fight. It was already lined up, you know. Everything was good. So I don't know. That was another fight that would have been, off the charts, entertainment-wise, okay? He had that fight lined up, man. And there are a couple other things, man, that I think Al Heyman is doing. I think everybody just need to be patient and just wait, because I think if this thing plays out the way Al Heyman envisions this, it's going to be a lot of money for a lot of people, and boxing is going to thrive, and we're going to get the fights that we want to see. We won't have to make these constant videos about this fighter ducking this fighter ducking this fighter. I think the PBC system, and hell, I even think Al Heyman going to even come up with the damn PBC belts, man. And those, you know what, those damn belts will probably be legitimate than all this IBF, WO, WBA, and these bastards, they corrupt and all this other bullshit, man. Look, man, it's too many damn belts as it is now. With the PBC model, it'll eliminate some of these damn belts. It will eliminate a lot of confusion, man. And the casual fan will know who the damn champion is. Because, Jeff, I done talked to casual fans. And this is no lie. I'm in the barbershop. My barber like, well, damn. I just got through watching a video, man, and, so-and-so is the WBA champion, and then this person is the WBO champion, this person is the IBF champion. Who the hell is the damn champion? Who is the real champion? See, that's what the casual fan thinks. But Al Heyman is going to eliminate all that. And these fights that we're going to be seeing, man, they're going to be top-of-the-line fights, and I'm telling you. And then the support after the 5-10 years up, like you said, then if Al Heyman, you get a big fight, man. Let's say, whoever the stars are in 5 years, okay? This fight been building up and building up. Okay. Well, now Al Heyman, in his sleep, can launch a pay-per-view, campaign, and guess what? It'll do 1 million or 2 million buys because the PBC is already building everybody up with the free fights. I mean, that's my opinion.
No, most definitely, man. And to just kind of get back to what you were saying, man, it makes all the sense in the world, man. It literally does. And I'm going to go as far as to say, even if you get a Triple G, right, and it's not a competitive fight, I'm still okay with that, because the reason I'm talking about the baby steps, right, I have to have people understand. The reason I'm saying to have these baby steps, right, because right now, when Triple G fought, he did 100,000 views, right? Let's say he fought on PBC once, because the most he's had, let's do the math real quick. He's done about a million views, right? So he's done about 1 million views on fucking HBO, right? He's done about 1 million views. So about 10% of his people watch or pay for his pay-per-view, about 10% of his fans, right? Think about this logic for those that really like Triple G and can't fathom, Al Heyman having any type of success. Let's just say he fought on PBC, right? Fought with whoever, did about 5 million people, right? Let's say 10% of people buy his next pay-per-view. That's 500,000. See, that means he'll increase his pay-per-view revenue by 5, right? Just by fighting on PBC. Yeah. Like hypothetically speaking, right? It's possible. Now, let's look at it this way too, right? People who want PBC to fail, why? You have a chance for a guy like Triple G to increase his viewership, increase his fans. Because, mind you, he might not get everybody. Out of those 5 million people that end up watching him, not everyone's going to become fans. But he'll get haters, which is good for him too. And he'll get a bunch more fans. So everybody wins, especially Triple G. So if you care about the fighters, then you'll like the fact that Triple G has a chance to grow, and he'll be in a fight that's not that dangerous. So it's all good. So HBO doesn't lose something. I say that to say this, man, because that's the baby step. The ultimate step will be to get, let's say, a Triple G versus Canelo fight. Now, some of you are saying, man, but they'll make so much more money on pay-per-view, blah, 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 blah. Why, when, let's say, right, they had it on free TV, this will be huge. It'll be expected. Everybody will be talking about it. And it could easily do, let's say it does what? 8, 9 million views, right? Do they get as much money as they'll get on pay-per-view, if they fight on pay-per-view? All right, probably not. But look at it this way, though. That's that many people watching boxing. So if we sit down and have some good fighters, let's say we have an Errol Spence or whoever on the undercard, how much that would set up the next views? Because what we have right now, the system we have right now is a bunch of, it's for leeches. But what I mean by that is that you have one guy who does good, but everyone else suffers. So, yeah, we have a star in Triple G, but there's really no one else. Yeah, we have a star in Andre Ward, but there's really no one else. This platform is what UFC done, and it gives everyone a chance to succeed. So it helps the whole sport of boxing grow. So we're not only fucking talking about Triple G, Mayweather, and Pacquiao. We could talk about everyone like I do all the time, but we can sit down and talk about everybody. That's what I want for the sport. So when people sit down and say PBC is going to fail, well, put some pressure on these guys to sit down, put pressure on these networks to get the fighters on there so it won't fail. Why would you want a platform like this to fail when it benefits everyone? Somebody please sit down and break down to me in the comment section if you can have how would this be bad for really anybody? Who would suffer from this? Well, like, what's the downside to having PBC be successful? I can't think of one, really.
And I'm gonna give you another thing, man. I'm gonna give you something else, man. You know, every fight that I report, the major fights on PBC, like the mega fights, I get a lot of views. I'm talking about lots. I'm talking about, you know, thousands, tens of thousands of views, okay? PBC fights. When I talk about maybe an HBO pay-per-view, Jeff, I'm lucky if I can get 600 to 700 views, okay, on a video. When I do a UFC video, and these are not even high-end UFC videos, man. I normally, man, minimum, I can get about 5,000 views. On my channel, based on the size, I can get about 5,000 views. That ought to tell you right now that the PBC model is very successful. Because I see my highest view counts when I'm talking about a PBC video. Definitely, by far. Okay, more than any other Showtime, more than any other HBO pay-per-view. I mean, man, PBC is the formula that boxing been missing for all these years. And really, it ain't something that Al Heyman invented. It was something that was already here in the past. But, you know, you got these greedy promoters that went away from that to get more money on pay-per-view, because back then, the boxing fans, I mean, boxing, like Mr. Doc, you know, my boy Mr. Doc told me, he said, man, look, boxing in the past was a lot more popular, man. It was popular than some of the NFL, you know, some NBA. I mean, people sat down and we watched boxing. I know my parents. I know.
Hey, but Coach, we gotta wrap this up, man. We gotta wrap this up, man. I'm about to head out right now. But yeah, like you said, man, it used to be for free, and it helped the sport grow. And the moment it started taking pay-per-view, started charging people, and we see how much it diminished. But we'll leave it at that for here, man. We gotta have a part 2 about this. Coach, thanks for coming on the show, man. Appreciate it, man. We out here.
And what I did this time, man, so people can come to your channel, I actually I got you too. I recorded it, man, so I'm gonna post it. The whole thing live, because guys, you need to come to Dreamchasingboxing, man. This channel is picking up, and I got to say this before I let him go, man. This channel is good. The guy has got some awesome collaborations, and I can't tell you enough. You guys, Dreamchase, if you can't spell it, I'll put the spelling on the screen for some of you illiterate bastards, okay?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Coach, man. I'll holler at you, man.
Okay, man. We out.
All right, brother.